The title of this episode is The Worst of the Adult Man. I'm going to say the worst of the worst in this episode. Please be mindful of that. This is my life. These things happen to me. It's important for me to talk about them. But if it's too much for you to hear, please be mindful of that. Take care of yourself. Comfort yourself. Pause it if you need to. Come back at another time. Take it in small doses. It's important for me to share the truth of what happened. Welcome to the Plumb Podcast. I'm Rosalee.
And I'm Sarah.
And we are the Plumb Collective. In this episode, I'm going to share with you the worst of the adult man. The man that I met when I was 16 years old. I met him at a concert. He definitely was love bombing me. I was used to love, feeling like obsession, feeling like jealousy, feeling like control. My mother had primed me, trained me to accept this relationship. I took this man and I boxed him up. I put that box away. I have not looked at it. I have not opened it. I have not talked about him. I've not thought about him. It was an intentional choice for survival. I'm so glad that I did it, but I know now that cord cutting or trying to cut yourself off from a person or from some portion of your life, it never works. It's important for us to integrate the things that happen, to tell our stories to ourselves, make it mean what we want it to mean, not what other people tell us the story means, or from their point of view, the story in a way that is the most accommodating, or like all of the players get their perspective. It's like, no, it's like you're the fucking main character. What do you say that your life means? What did that moment mean to you? How has it affected you? We can't know that if we cut ourselves off from it. I needed to do that. It's so clear that because I am safer, I feel safer in my body. I feel safer in my relationships. I was able to open this box and explore it and talk about it for the first time in over 20 years. It isn't fresh. I know it's a memory. I know it happened when I was 16 or when I was 20 or when I was 23. This man stayed connected to my life until I was in my mid-20s. There is a risk, me talking about him now, that people from his life or the man himself could contact me, I don't know, I don't even want to think about it. I know I'm right. Everything I'm saying is true. I have the videos, I have the photos, I have the memories. I'm continuously affected. Today, things have a direct line back to how this person tormented me. This morning, I thought of something that I had forgotten. My mom wrote about it. She felt that the adult man was my soulmate. And every time she said it, similar to when she would say that I was a woman, I had a visceral reaction. No, he is not my soulmate and I am not a woman. It was so clear to me every time she said those words, my body had an extreme reaction. It was such a clear no. Thinking that this man was my soulmate. Why did she think that? Why did she say that? She thought he was my soulmate because he was so much like her. He did to me what she did to me. In her sick, twisted mind, she felt like that was love. That was meant to be. Everyone saw me wither away. I became emaciated. I was skin and bones. The adult man is directly responsible for me entering the void. He wore my body down. He wore me down. I've gotten some comments asking what friends of mine at the time, what they said, what they thought about this man, and if anyone said anything to me. Two of my friends tried to get with the adult man. Multiple of my friends wanted to watch us together. They thought that we were such an attractive couple, that we had such undeniable chemistry, that they wanted to watch us. Multiple people asked me and multiple people asked him to make recordings for them to watch. Like, what? I did have one guy friend who said to me that the adult man ruined me. And when he said it, I was so pissed at my friend. I mean, he didn't have the words. He didn't know how to say what he was trying to say to me. He put it on me that I was now ruined because of this person, and that's what I took issue with. Yeah, I'm diminished, I'm dented. I was never ruined. And if you've gone through things that change you, it doesn't mean that you're ruined. It's not over. Our hearts are still beating. Our lungs are still breathing. We're still here. We have a chance to make our stories mean something to us. I see myself getting my sparkle back, my shine, to be as ill as I have been for so long. Illness and disability diminishes chronic pain, lack of nutrition. I have been through it, and I see how that has affected, how I look, how I sound, how I am. But I don't feel ruined. I was changed by these people through the process that I'm choosing daily, moment to moment. I feel myself getting stronger. I feel myself getting safer. I feel myself getting more confident and more clear of who I am, who I've always been, and who I want to be. I'm getting to know myself more fully. I am more full of myself every day, every moment. I'm making choices that are choosing me. I'm not ruined. I'm Rosalee. There's no beginning and end to this story. There's no linear way to tell it. When it comes to the worst things that the adult man did, it's kind of a blur to me. Like, when did it start? When did his bad behavior start? I mean, it was there from the beginning, and I think people like this test the waters. They test how far they can push you. And because I was so used to really awful treatment by my mother, I think he saw very quickly that he could push and that I would accept it. I saw him. I saw how dangerous he was. I saw how obsessed he was. And I did choose him. I chose him for my own safety. The adults around me oscillated between two things. One, that I was super naive. Hello? No. And that I was a Jezebel, that I was a sexual goddess. No one could resist me. Stupid and sexy was how people thought of me, which is so missing the point of who I am and how I see things. But that was very much projected onto me, that I was naive, when actually in this particular situation, I made choices that I feel were calculated. I saw how dangerous this man could be, and I felt he could protect me from my mother. It was a choice I was willing to make. Of course, in hindsight, I would never have made it. I wish I could go back to these very specific moments where I feel like I could have maybe gotten away, but I really don't know that I could have. I think he locked in on me at the concert, and I don't think he was ever going to give me up. I know he was never going to give me up willingly. He told me what his plan was, if he ever wanted me gone, where he would dispose of my body. It was coming close to that. What are the worst things? The worst of the worst. Physically, he would punch me. He would ball up his fist and he would punch as hard as he could into my hip, in my butt, in my thighs, and then he would say to me, "They're so big, it doesn't hurt. They can take it. You have such a big ass, it can take it." He would block me into the bathroom when I would be brushing my teeth or taking a shower or going to the bathroom. He would get the door open and then use his body to block me in and slam me against the wall. This was all of this physical, very specific, can't deny what it is, was at the end. Earlier on, he framed it as a game. He wanted to make sure that I could defend myself. He would randomly attack me for me to fight him off when I couldn't. It ended with essay to prove the point that he was stronger. If you've not been in a situation like this, you don't know how fast it happens and how impossible it is to get out of. He built everything so that no one would believe me. I had a lifetime of my mother telling me no one would believe me. My parents were witnessing what he was doing. They didn't help me. They didn't believe me. They didn't stop it. Being trapped like that, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, affects a person. I've gotten comments where it's like, why didn't you run away? You don't have any clue. There's nowhere to go. They will find you. This person moved into my home, into my childhood bed. He picked me up from school. My teachers knew who he was. He was in the school building all the time. He was waiting outside. He knew where I was constantly. When I got my first salon job, I was offered a lot of different places. I was recruited from cosmetology school, which never happens, but it happened to me. And he refused to let me take any of the positions that I was offered except the one that was 5 minutes from our apartment. That is the job he insisted that I take, and I did end up taking. It wasn't the best salon. It wasn't the salon that had people that I thought I could learn from. It wasn't the best location. It wasn't anything that I wanted. But I took it because he said, if you're done at 8 o'clock, I expect you to be home at 8:05. And if you're not, you're gonna have problems. When we'd be in public together, he would put his arm around my neck and he'd be smiling so big. People found him so attractive, so handsome. He was physically fit. He had long hair. His nickname that I would never call him, but people call him Fabio. He'd be smiling and schmoozing, looking like a flirty, happy person. And he'd whisper in my ear the most heinous, unbelievable, cruel, like unrepeatable things with the biggest smile on his face. When I would try to pull away because it was scary, he would pull me closer and he would say, everybody thinks you're psycho. You have such a great boyfriend. He's so loving. Everybody can see how loving I am. You have the best boyfriend. You are acting like such a fucking bitch. You're pulling away from me. You look psychotic. They're gonna lock you up. He just wouldn't let up. He said things about how other people viewed me. I knew he was right. I knew he was right. That's what it looked like, because that's what he wanted it to look like. He wanted people to think that I was crazy, so he made me look crazy. We'd be walking into Walmart. He would look like the best boyfriend in the world, and I would look like I deserved it. Like I deserved whatever happened to me. He set it up like that. It was intentional. And then we'd be in the racks of Walmart. My mom worked at the Walmart portrait studio. We would just be at Walmart. I don't know, waiting for her. I don't know why we were there all the time. I can't even go to Walmart anymore. He would push me into the racks and he would pull my pants down. And he would essay me in Walmart. He'd be standing behind me and people wouldn't have any idea what he was doing. He liked things in public. He made me do things. I'm gonna list them. On the Staten Island ferry, he made me use my hand on him until completion. In the parking lot of Red Robin, outside at multiple friends' farms. One time it was late at night and we were outside and he just pulled my pants down and pushed me over, and a car came by and the headlights from the car put our shadow up on the side of the barn by a tree at the gym that we went to, in the gym, at his church, my cosmetology school, at the salon where I worked, Rocky Rococo in a booth, Olive Garden in a booth, the mall, food court, a lot. My mom and the adult man really loved the mall food court. I don't know why. Both of them loved people watching me in the mall food court. It was very pleasurable to both of them. And then the adult man would get very jealous to like assert his dominance. He would put his hand down my pants. And he would say that that was checking me. He made a noise with his mouth. A lot of the worst stuff had sounds that went with it that felt very much like Pavlov's dog associating a sound with a movement, a punishment. He would tap his ring on the railing of the hospital bed. The sound of metal on metal to this day is hard for me to hear. The particular mouth noises he would make as a signal for him to check to see if I was ready. He would do it anywhere, at any time, in front of anyone. Nobody ever did anything. Nobody stopped it. I couldn't physically get away from him. When I tried to get away from him, he would hold me down. This happened in public. He was intentional to make it look like I was the problem. I mean, it's textbook reactive abuse. He knew what he was doing. He knew that if he looked really loving and really kind and really smiley, that he could whisper these heinous things to me and it would cause me to react. And then I would look like I needed to be locked up and put away. He threatened me with that all the time. He made jokes and lied and then said he was making a joke that just distorted my reality. He went on to marry someone who he grew up with, who was 2 years older than him, who was a part of this cult. I mean, they're perfect for each other. Like, they were destined to be together. I should never have been involved in this weird triangle. They really are fucked up and perfect for each other. They're two of the most hateful people I've ever encountered. They batted me around like I was a cat toy or something. When I was a child, like, she was 2 years older than him. I was a child. I was in high school. This woman came to my high school to see me perform in a play. She was jealous. I'm in high school. You're an adult woman. Why are you coming to my high school? Fucking weirdo. On no planet would I have been involved with a 16-year-old in the way that these people were involved with me. They should have left me alone. And yet, obsession. They locked in. They tried to use religion to control me, to control the situation, and it didn't work. They tried to use physical violence, and that was escalating. The adult man was incredibly jealous. I've never encountered a more jealous human being, even my mother. He made her look like an amateur, which is saying something. 4th of July is a really big deal in my hometown. A lot of events and everybody comes out. People that have moved away come back. It's an important weekend. The first 4th of July that we were together, he came to the celebrations. There were people that I hadn't seen that he didn't know about, that had just not come up in conversation. One interaction in particular really set him off. 4th of July is the first time I remember being fully afraid of the adult man. I was friends with 3 brothers. I had very special relationships with each of the brothers. The youngest brother was in my grade and he was very silly. He came to me for advice. We talked a lot about his relationships. He was coming to me, asking me my opinion. He looked at me as an advice giver. There was a middle brother that was very sensitive. They were all football players, but the middle one was definitely very handsome, very athletic. Everybody thought of him as a jock and not somebody who was very sensitive. But with me, he got to be soft and sensitive, and we just had a very close relationship. The oldest brother was someone that I went to for advice, somebody that I thought was really smart and sensitive and kind, and we just got along really well. They felt like brothers to me. There was nothing romantic going on. He felt so threatened by anyone who saw me as a person, who saw me as a human being, as someone to be cared for, protected. One of the brothers was driving in a pickup truck coming down the road, and he saw me walking on the sidewalk, and he got excited. We hadn't seen each other in a while. It was very dramatic and very cute. He slammed on the brakes as soon as he saw me, started yelling out the window, flung the door open, left the door open in the middle of the road. He ran towards me like it was in the movies. He picked me up and he twirled me around, laughing and smiling, and he was like, "Oh, I missed you so much. I'm so happy to see you." He finally set me down on the ground. I was laughing, and I remember my eyes closed, looking down, just belly laughing. I picked my head back up, and I looked right in the eyes of the adult man. I was terrified. It was the scariest face I've maybe ever seen. He looked murderous. Rage at a level, it was white hot. It was like stoic. It had gone so far into violence that it was silent. If you've ever experienced a look like that from someone, it is bone chilling. It never leaves you. Immediately, I knew I was in trouble, but I didn't know why or what happened. It didn't even register to me because I was like, this is my friend. Why are you, like, it just didn't make any sense to me. But from his perspective, he just saw this like 6'2" football player, golden tanned person yelling, so excited to see me, so happy to hug me and be around me. That incensed him. He told me later that he wanted to end the life of my friend. What he ended up doing was vomiting uncontrollably. He was so upset. He sprayed me with bug spray violently. He knew how sensitive I am to smells and taste and texture. He wanted me to be sticky and stinky, get this bug spray in my mouth and in my eyes. Anything could be a weapon when you want to inflict violence on someone. Bug spray. If you spray a full bottle of bug spray on someone, you are so sticky and you smell so, it's so awful. I can taste it now just talking about it. It was in my mouth. It was in my eyes. He got it inside of my ears. It was violent and miserable and horrific. And he wouldn't let up. He was asking me a million questions. He wasn't letting me talk. I was hyperventilating. We were near his fake apartment. I was like, I gotta get out of here. And I just started walking as fast as I could to his apartment. As soon as I got in there, I like ripped my clothes off and got in the shower. He ripped the shower curtain open and stood there screaming at me as I'm trying to get the bug spray out of my eyes and my nose and my ears and my mouth. Things that you would not think could be weapons, like bars of soap, dial bars of soap being thrown at my head, food intending to humiliate me, embarrass me. It's something that I say now, like, I really don't feel embarrassed. I don't get embarrassed. And I think that's because my mother and this man weaponized my shame and embarrassment, tried to get me with it. The only defense I had was to accept myself. I radically accept myself. I don't feel embarrassed. I don't feel shame. I don't do shameful things. I don't think shameful thoughts. There's nothing that I need to be embarrassed about. I was a child and he was an adult man. I was a child and she was my mother.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with all of us, Rosalee. I am so proud of you for getting the words out, speaking what happened to you. None of that should have happened to you. I am sending you the biggest hug, you now and you at 16, and wishing so much for your protection. I'm so proud of you for being able to talk about it now.
Thank you. I'm providing an example. I'm choosing to share publicly something all of us can do privately. We can tell our stories to ourselves. We can take the narrative back from what we were told to believe about what happened to what we say happened, what we make it mean for ourselves back then and for us in current time and for our future. This is one of the hardest parts of my life. I have not felt safe enough to even open this can of worms or this box that I put this adult man in. Through the work that I have done with the Plumb Collective, I have created safety inside of myself, inside of my body. I was never safe with the people who told me that they loved me, but I was able to find safety in connecting with myself and telling myself the stories of my life through plum practice and the diner and reading myself, looking at the photos and the videos and the written word from my parents. All of it has stacked together gently and incrementally over time to get me to this place where I can talk about the adult man. I'm so proud of myself. It's been years of private work, and I'm sharing it publicly so that we all have an example of what it looks like, what it feels like, that it's possible.
We'll put links in the description box to our website and to our online course, The Diner and Plum Practice, and our free course, The Mirror Challenge, as well as photo readings and clarity calls, which are all paths to you that we created in the Plumb Collective. Tune in next week for a new episode of the Plum Podcast. The conversation will be different, but we will always express ourselves authentically, and we create the space for you to do the same.